Hey, what is going on, everybody? I am back for the final championship Sunday game preview. This one, I am going to be previewing the NFC championship game between the San Francisco 49ers, who are traveling down to LA to face those Rams for the third time this season. And they're going to look to complete the season sweep over them because they won the first two matchups earlier this season. The first game they met was back on November 15th. The 49ers absolutely took it to them. The 49ers won that game 31-10. They had full control over that matchup. And then the second game, the Rams looked like they were finally going to get over this Kyle Shanahan elephant in the room hump they are currently going through. They are up 17-0 on San Francisco, and then the 49ers fought and clawed their way back, helped keep their postseason hopes alive, and they end up winning that game 27-24. That game just happened literally 2 weeks ago, back on January 9th. That was the last game of the regular season. So these teams will be facing off each other relatively soon from their previous matchup. They know each other well. And the really interesting thing about these teams is Kyle Shanahan has, and the 49ers, let's make this a whole team. But when you kind of look at the head coach thing, Kyle Shanahan and the 49ers have won the last 6 games against the Los Angeles Rams and Sean McVay. I know somebody asked Sean McVay if Kyle Shanahan was in his head. All he said was no, but that's kind of a thing you think he would say if he wasn't in his head, just a simple no answer. But what else is he supposed to say? I mean, of course he's probably got in the back of his mind that he's got to beat his friend finally, so he has some off-season bragging rights for once for the first time in over 3 years. With that being said, to continue on this preview, taking a look at these injury reports, both teams got some notable names. The biggest one now for the 49ers is Trent Williams is questionable with his ankle injury. Now, I saw somebody, wish I would remember the reporter's name, but he tweeted out that Trent Williams said he's adamant that he's going to play, but it does sound like this is a true game time decision. I mean, he was in crutches after the game. So that's something's very notable because Trent Williams is obviously a difference maker on that offensive line. Trent Williams is a dog, so I totally expect that he's going to play on Sunday. And if there is anybody that could deal with a hobbled ankle and probably play up to the par of a player that he is, it would be Trent Williams. So it's hard to for me, because anybody that's been following my previews throughout the season, I can kind of lean into these injuries. I don't want to really lean into this one because I do think he can hold his own. But with that being said, if he has to if he maybe retweaks the ankle injury and he has to leave the matchup, or if it is very noticeable that, hey, this is 60% Trent Williams, right? He's out there, but he's not out there. You know what I'm saying? Then yeah, Von Miller can get him. Leonard Floyd could get him at a 60% if he's 60% of himself. And then honestly, just like I said last week, in which they did with Tristan Wirfs out of the lineup, they lined up Aaron Donald on that right side of the on the edge. Listen, if Trent misses, if he has to miss any snaps, or if like I said, he's 50% of himself, 60% of himself, it's clearly noticeable. I'm lining up Aaron Donald on that left tackle spot, whoever the backup is, and attacking him as often as I can. And that's Jimmy G's blind spot. Jimmy G is, that doesn't protect the ball that well. So there could be some creative turnovers off of that. The other injury on this injury report is Jeff Wilson. He's a backup running back. He's questionable with an ankle injury. I mean, this is Elijah Mitchell's backfield. They got JaMycal Hasty, who has done some good things as well. So Jeff Wilson's not too noticeable, but he does provide special teams value. So that is something they could be missing from him on Sunday. Now, with looking at the Rams report, Joe Noteboom is doubtful with a chest injury. I gotta give credit to Joe Noteboom. I thought he was gonna be a detriment to the offense because he's the backup left tackle. He did hold his own last week against those Bucks. With that being said, Andrew Whitworth is back. So they actually have, even though their backup left tackle, who did well last week against the Bucks, He's not going to probably play in this game or not going to suit up for this game. But Andrew Whitworth, their starter, their leader on the offensive line, is back in the lineup, which is huge because they're going against Nick Bosa and that very ferocious defensive front of San Francisco. Now, they got some other notable names though. Van Jefferson is questionable with his knee injury. He's a the third wide receiver on the depth chart. He does provide value because they do run those three wide receiver sets between Cooper Kupp and OBJ. And sometimes these championship Sunday games, they do need these role players to step up and to help them get the big win. So I would assume Van will battle through it, but he's a type of player that can show up in a game like this. So if he is unable to go, I do think that's definitely notable because those three wide receiver sets that they run won't be the same because he does benefit playing next to Cooper Kupp and OBJ, and his very efficient route running is why he can succeed in those sets. And then Taylor Rapp, he hasn't played in the postseason. He's been dealing with a concussion. He's listed as questionable. Now, if you guys watched my Chiefs preview video where I talked about this with Tyrann Mathieu got full practices in. It looked like Taylor Rapp got a limited practice rep yesterday. They did not get the full practice or limited practice reps listed before I recorded this video, but they did give out who's doubtful and questionable. So I don't know if he was a full practice this week. Everything I've heard kind of made it sound like Taylor Rapp should be back in the lineup, which would be huge because he's a starting safety and that can help up the back end of their defense. Even though those guys that are backups and Eric Weddle coming off the streets have actually been playing some good football in the first 2 weeks of the playoffs. So those are all the injury reports. So what I'm going to do first, I'm going to take a look at the San Francisco offense against this Los Angeles defense. Take a look at the offense, right? It's a top 15, it's a top 10 offense, and we're going to be quite honest as far as yard production. They get 375.7 yards a game, which is 7th in the NFL. They average 127.4 yards a game, which is 7th in the NFL. And their passing yards, even though you kind of think they're limited, but they've been averaging 248.3. That's 12th in the NFL, and they average around 25.1 points a game. That's 13th in the NFL. So they average right between those 3 to 4 touchdowns a game. And then when you take a look at the Los Angeles defensive stats from the regular season, they basically been middle of the pack defense that's pretty good against the run, which is they're going to need that, even though it hasn't shown up in the past during these 49er Rams matchups. But they're a team that could be suspect to giving up passing yards, as you can see through these numbers. Total yards per game, they give up around 344.9. That's 17th in the NFL. Rushing yards a game, only give up 130.2. That's 6th, so that's top 10 in the league. That you're going against a rushing team that leans onto the rushing attack. So that's definitely a strength of theirs, but it's going to have to show up in this game because the games in the past, Kyle Shanahan has got his rushing attack to go off against those Rams. Now, passing yards a game allowed, they do allow 241.7. That's 21st in the NFL, so that's bottom half of the league. And then they give up around 21.9 points a game, tied for 15th. So they give up around 3 touchdowns a game. So it's like their defense, though, like with that being said, it's not like it's a terrible defense because this defense has playmakers, between Von Miller, Aaron Donald, Leonard Floyd, and then you got Jalen Ramsey in the back end of that defense. And they do got some good role players that can show up and make some big time plays at moments too. And what this game's going to come down to is, as I always say with Kyle Shanahan, you probably, even though the Packers did what I said what they should do, they just didn't capitalize on it. If anybody needs me to reiterate it, what I say is Kyle Shanahan is absolutely brilliant at scripting a opening drive touchdown. And what I said last week is the opposing team, even though I'm a fan of deferring the ball and starting the second half with the ball in your hands, that's my philosophy as far as what I think you should do most of the time. But when you face Kyle Shanahan, I kind of go against that because I think you should, or your team, which would be the Rams in this case, should accept if they win the coin toss, accept the getting the ball. And they need to march down. They need to go down, get that first score, and then they can put the pressure on this San Francisco offense so they're not relying. Because what happens is San Francisco gets the ball to open up the game. Kyle Shanahan has watched so much tape, he knows what to call, right? Every run play he calls usually on these drives are ripping off 5 to 10 yards a clip. They get the ball out of Jimmy's hands very fast. Quick out routes or quick slants or screen plays with Debo and Brandon Ayuk, and they happen just to march down the field with ease. They score a touchdown. The offense is confident. Jimmy G's confident, and as Jimmy G's confidence grows in games, that's when he tends to put together his good outings on the field. So that's what I would try to imagine what the 49ers are going to do is they're going to try to get the ball first and make a statement, go down and get that opening drive touchdown. And I think they're going to be able to move the ball. I mean, they obviously have confidence playing this team. This team struggled with Debo in open space last time. So I expect them to get him in open space. Debo on that, we saw that the last time these two teams played against each other. When Debo is on that type of field, that turf or that indoor grounds, he is so good when he is out in open space. So they're gonna have to figure out a way to maybe bracket. You don't really need to bracket coverage Debo because he's not necessarily like a burner, but you need two pairs of eyes on him, and you have to have two guys come on top of him for the tackle because those smaller cornerbacks can struggle to get Debo to the ground. With that being said, this team, in the two games the first game they put up 31 points against the Rams. The second game they put up 27. So, they're comfortable, they're confident. I think they're going to be able to score 3 to 4 touchdowns against this team. And what's going to come down though for the Rams is obviously I said what they need to do is they need to start with the ball, but their defense though, if they can really bottle up this rushing attack and really be bullies in the trenches. This is a game that's going to be very physical, and they're going to have to, let the 49ers know, listen, we're done having you push us around in this rivalry. It's our time, to take this thing over. And it's going to come up with Aaron Donald and all those guys up front. They're going to dominate the trenches, and the linebackers are going to have to fill their gaps right and just bottle up this rushing attack and really put it on Jimmy and get him in third and long situations. And that's where I think they can win the game. And if they can get pressure on Jimmy, that's when he kind of gets flustered. That's when he kind of loses confidence. All of a sudden, the ball's kind of sailing out of his hands. That's when those interceptions come. And then all it takes is a good, a Leonard Floyd or a Von Miller or Aaron Donald coming off the edge or blowing up through the middle and hitting Jimmy. And then he fumbles the ball and he can scoop and score. That's the type of plays they need to try to get to. And Jalen Ramsey is going to have to shut down somebody, whether it's Brandon Ayuk or Deebo Samuel, and really, really limit everything. Shut down the run game. And if they can somehow deal with Debo, that's how I think they can get the job done on defense. But now, moving on to the flipping sides of the ball in this matchup, looking at the Rams offense against that defense. The Rams offense is a top 10 offense that really leans into their passing attack, but with the emergence of Cam Akers and so how Sony Michel finished the season, the rushing attack did improve throughout the year. But when you look at the regular season numbers, they average around 372.1 yards a game. That's 9th in the NFL. The rushing yards a game is 99. It's 25th in the NFL. That was bottom 7 during the season, even though it did improve late. I just want to give that credit. Passing yards a game, yards per game, 273.1. That's 5th in the NFL, top 5 in that category. And they've averaged around 27.1 yards a game, tied for 7th in the NFL. So they're averaging right underneath 4 touchdowns a game. Now you look against this 49ers defense. They're playing so good despite everybody's been following me with these preview videos. And they are playing so good despite the quarterbacks they have. I don't understand it. I don't understand what the Cowboys didn't do. I don't understand what happened with the Packers and Aaron Rodgers and that passing attack. Maybe the weather kind of threw that off, but you can attack these corners, and will somebody do it? Finally, please. Anyways, looking at the numbers, total yards per game, though, you got to give respect to this team. They only give up 310 yards a game. That's 3rd in the NFL, top 5. Rushing yards a game, they only allow 103.5. That's 7th. Somehow with those cornerbacks I don't like, they only give up 206.5. That's 6th in the NFL. And they give up around 21.5 points a game. It's tied for 9th. So give up around 3 touchdowns in a game. Now this is also a team that's going to be very confident when they play the Rams offense because they've had their stretches where they can completely shut down this team. I mean, in that first matchup, they only gave up 10 points. Like I said at the beginning of this preview video, the Rams were up 17-0, and they held the Rams to just 7 more points, and then allowed their team to come back and win that game. just a couple weeks ago. So what the Rams offense, what they're going to have to do is just like what I just said about the Rams defensive line. The Rams offensive line has to be bullies too, because otherwise that San Francisco defensive front and with their linebackers with Fred Warner, they're going to push you around and bully you around and not let you run anything on them. So that offensive line, I know they're you could kind of call them more of a finesse offensive line in my opinion. They're going to have to be bullies. They're going to have to be, they're going to have to push this defensive front around and open up rushing lanes for Sony Michel and Cam Akers so they can break off some chunk gains. And then what that can allow to happen is those play action deep shots with Matthew Stafford to Cooper Kupp to Van if he does play, and then obviously OBJ. And I think they need to attack these corners on the boundary often. I would line up Cooper Kupp on the outside. I would line up OBJ on the one outside. I'd put Van in the middle, and I would have Van work those guys in the middle to try to take away some eyes and try to set up some one-on-one matchups with either of those guys. Because if those safeties that I'm talking about, if they can get pulled down to Van and maybe Tyler Higbee at the tight end spot, and you can get a one-on-one matchup with Cooper Kupp, or you can get a one-on-one matchup with OBJ against one of these guys, you're going to have deep shots often. Can one of these offensive coordinators please do this for me? Attack these cornerbacks on the outside, please. So I think that's what they can do. These guys they get paid millions of dollars more than I do. So I'm hoping that Sean McVay will try to do that. But he can't lean into the pass too much. I've said this multiple times about Matthew Stafford. He's a really great quarterback, really great arm talent. He's a very warrior, competitive type of quarterback. But when you kind of lean on him throwing that ball too much, that's when he can kind of get trusty with his arm, and that's when those errant throws come and he throws those interceptions. Now, you flip sides of the ball, I do want to give credit. Like I said, this 49ers defense, they have some really tough playmakers. I love Nick Bosa. You love what Fred Warner can do at the linebacker spot, and Jaquiski Tartt does deserve some respect too at the safety spot as well. And what I think they can do is if they can really do the opposite. Like I said, if the Rams need to be bullies up front. Well, if the San Francisco can do what they've done this whole postseason, not allow teams to run the ball on them, get pressure and get sacks on Matthew Stafford, that's where those turnovers can potentially happen. And they just, completely dominate the trenches, and they completely get pressure on Matthew Stafford and make him run around often and get flustered. That's where they're going to get that team off the field more times than not. With that being said, I think both offenses are going to find success throughout the day. I think both offenses are going to have their drives where they have their moments. And I do think this is going to come down to who can get some sacks. I really do. I think it's going to come down to what defensive front dominates the most in this matchup. Is it going to be the 49ers defensive front led by Nick Bosa, or is it going to be the Rams defensive front led by Aaron Donald? Whoever can dominate the trenches and stop the run and get as much pressure, and whoever leads this game in sacks, I feel like is going to win this game. I truly believe it, because I do think one of those sacks would turn into a fumble, and whoever can make that fumble happen can pick it up and go take it home for a score. With that being said, man, this is a close matchup for me. I always lean quarterback, but it's so hard when, like I said, the Shanahan and this 49ers team has beat them 6 times in a row, but man, at some point the quarterbacks really do show up in the postseason. I'm going to pick the Rams to win this game. I think Matthew Stafford is having his moment this postseason. I think he's going to lead them down into field goal position like he did last week, and I think the Rams end up kicking a field goal, and they end up winning what score do I like? I like a 31-28 win for the Rams. And so that's my video, and I hope these games come as close as they do, because sometimes these championship Sunday games, there's always one game that ends out in a blowout, and it's very boring. So I hope that doesn't happen this year. With that being said, if you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button. As always, if you have not subscribed to my channel, please subscribe to my channel. Obviously, as the off season comes along, I'm not going to have as many weekly videos as I did during the season, but that way you guys can get all the notifications for any videos that I do between now and the rest of the off season. Now, one thing you can expect from me is a Super Bowl preview video. That'll likely come. The Super Bowl's not next week, it's the following Sunday. So you'll probably get that Friday night from me. So 2 Fridays from now will probably be my next video. To be quite honest, I'm about to really dive deep into my scouting this next week, and then like I said, you guys might see maybe some free agency content, maybe some type of off-season content. Maybe I'll do reaction videos if any trades happen over the off-season as well, and giving my thoughts on that type of stuff. And then, like I just said, I'm about to really start diving deep into my scouting over starting this next week. So that's why you're not going to really get much videos out of me. And then probably around like mid-March, you'll see my draft videos that I'll end up publishing once I finalize all my rankings for each position group and whatnot. So stay tuned for that. Other than that, guys, I hope you guys enjoy this weekend. I cannot wait for the championship games on Sunday. I'm going to head out so I can get to my Friday night. I'll talk to you guys here in a couple weeks for the Super Bowl preview. Peace out.